David's prayer intensifies in the last verses of Psalm 39. The psalmist moves from reflection on human frailty to direct petition. He asks God to hear his cry and respond to his need. Verse 12 opens with urgency. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears, for I am a stranger with thee, and a sojourner, as all my fathers were. Psalm 39, verse 12. The command here demands attention. David's request is not gentle. He calls out to God with force. The phrase, my prayer, refers to his specific request. David wants God to listen to his prayer. The parallel phrase, give ear unto my cry, reinforces this plea. This expression, give ear, means to pay attention or listen. The word cry suggests distress and desperation. David speaks from a place of suffering, and he needs God to respond. The phrase, hold not thy peace at my tears, adds emotional weight. The expression, hold not thy peace, means do not remain silent. David begs God not to ignore him. The word tears shows his grief. David wept before the Lord. He asks God to acknowledge his sorrow and act. David gives a reason for his request in the phrase, for I am a stranger with thee. The word stranger means a temporary resident or an alien. David describes himself as someone passing through. He does not belong in this world. The phrase with thee shows his relationship to God. David feels as if he exists as a stranger in God's presence. David recognizes his temporary status on earth. The phrase, and a sojourner, as all my fathers were, expands this idea. The word sojourner means a temporary dweller. David emphasizes the concept of his transience. The expression, as all my fathers were, connects him to previous generations. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob all lived as strangers in the land God promised them. They dwelt in tents and moved from place to place. They never possessed the land God pledged to give their descendants. Hebrews 11:13 describes these patriarchs. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. Abraham and his descendants understood their temporary status. They looked beyond earthly possessions to a better country. They sought a city whose builder and maker is God. David identifies with this heritage. He sees himself as a pilgrim passing through this world, and this perspective shapes his prayer. Since life is brief, David asks God to act. He cannot wait forever. His time on earth is running short. Verse 13 concludes the psalm. O spare me, that I may recover strength, before I go hence and be no more. Psalm 39, verse 13. The phrase, O spare me, asks for relief. The word spare means to refrain from or hold back. David asks God to hold his discipline. He asks for mercy and compassion. The reason for this request appears in the phrase, that I may recover strength. The word recover means to brighten or be cheerful. David wants to experience joy again. The word strength refers to vitality and vigor. David asks for restoration before his death comes. The time limit appears in the phrase, before I go hence and be no more. David speaks of death. The expression, and be no more, describes the finality of death from the human perspective. Once a person dies, he cannot return to this life. David asks God to grant relief while he still lives. This prayer shows David's understanding of his mortality. He knows his time is limited, and he asks God to act within the boundaries of this earthly life. David does not presume upon tomorrow. He recognizes that death could come at any moment.